So at the time that the project was incubating, was there also commercializing already happening at that point in time?
No. So
Okay.
I think one of the big lessons that I learned is the don't do any commercialization when you don't have community. So that means because the way how community the way how commercialized work is that you need to sell value. And what is the value? Open source is not a value you're selling to customers. Also, open source project itself, it has the value, but it's open source. You're not going to commercialize that. So the way how it works is that you really need to find the signal in the community. So people would use that technology, like that work. So you just keep working on that, bring more functionality into Pulsar, and make it attractive, and people start using it. And then at that point, people start asking question in the community: Is do you have a managed service? Do you have a commercial enterprise distribution? I think there's a security feature lacking. Is there any vendor providing that? If people start asking that, then that is the first signal you catch from the community, and that is the time you see people, there's an ask coming into the community asking for commercial, and that is the point that you start looking into how you should build a commercial product. And those initial people who ask questions will become your early adopters of your product. You use the relationship you build in the community to really talk to those users to ask for what they are looking for. Are you looking for Pulsar experts? Are you looking for you don't have the resources to run a public cloud and you're looking into a fully managed services? Are you looking into security related features? What are the features that you're looking for? And that is the conversation happening would trigger the company looking into find to build a product and find what is the product market fit in order to do the commercial.
Now, CJ, what's interesting is there's a lot of projects who seemingly give away all of those things that people would normally ask for out of the box,
Yeah.
which makes it difficult to sometimes figure out which components they should commercialize or how they could make a business around it. And there might be some open source projects that are just they're non-commercializable, right? You can't make a commercial entity
Right.
out of them because of that.
Yeah. Yeah.
So are you advocating potentially to say let the community drive those enterprise features or the commercialization, or are you saying maybe like think about that core side of things, focus on those, and then as those requests come in on the periphery, that's where you want to focus on commercialization?
I think that's a good question. Is it really getting boiled down into one kind of a kind of what kind of model you're looking for? I think a lot of these model eventually going into two direction. One is more on the open core model, so meaning the core is open, and then you building a certain enterprise tooling surrounding around that, and that is typically a kind of a licensing slash distribution model. Is that I have an enterprise version building around that, and the other model is I usually see nowadays is called SaaS model, meaning um, a lot of features you can put in the open source in the public, but your core value is actually you providing a fully managed service on the SaaS side. People coming to you is not just because of the functionality in that open source project is actually all the entire services deployment, automation, configuration, management of that open source project and make it available as a SaaS service on the public side. So that is kind of two different routes, and it would actually create two different mindset in terms of how you want to build a commercial open source business. So at the beginning, I think because Pulsar is in the way is a lot of this functionality like multi-tenancy, geo-replication is already available as a core. and it makes it's different from the other open source project, the previous generation of messaging technology. We already solved that in the open source side, and if I want to go down a route, there's no huge differentiator from I would say functionality perspective, because multi-tenant zero application, those are the biggest differentiators as already available in the open source version. So in the beginning, we decided to go down into the SaaS model. That's where, as the creators of Pulsar, we know how to run Pulsar at very large scale. We can automate the entire thing. We know every single piece of the code inside out. We are able to build the entire automation tooling surrounding that. So we start building out our kind of a SaaS version and get started with the kind of managed service concept. But quickly, as we talk, so this is kind of the first iteration, and then we start talking to the people. We realize people still need certain features that is missing in the open source side, like a lot of security and compliance related feature. Obviously, you cannot cover a lot, but majority of the community users probably don't care about security and compliance. Only those the big enterprises care about. So once we have this channel open, then we can have a conversation with customers. But then we're looking into, okay, maybe we should bring the version that we're running on the cloud and layer in certain security features and as a kind of a private cloud distribution and selling to customers. And that's kind of create a kind of a hybrid model, is that we have the SaaS model, using the SaaS model to get the customer feedback in, and then identify certain gaps in these open source project side, and then layer in certain enterprise features and selling that as a kind of a distribution to enterprises. So I wouldn't say choose one or another. It really depending on how you're looking into your open source, looking into your community, and find what is the value it delivered to your customer, and based on that value to build your first version. And then once you have the first version, then you have the channel, feedback channel that we can iterate and make the we can decide the route and the way to go.
Yeah. So CJ, you know what you're really saying is you kind of satisfy both that kind of open core like experience and the SaaS experience.
Yeah.
You know, so you have to be mindful that there's some users, some customers who might have needs beyond what you can build in a public offering that is cookie cutter for everyone else. Yeah. There might be some features. And in my experience in a lot of the companies that I've worked with in the past, a lot of the largest customers are those ones that need the unique features, right? Yeah. You know, security, or they need integration with certain tools, or they need something so special that 90% of the market won't pay for it, but they're willing to pay a lot of money for it. And that's really attractive to a lot of businesses.
Yeah, I think that's exactly, I think on the open core side, that is exactly what's happening there.